Aw, shit, we out here. I'm really upset that Yusuf doesn't like this genre of Joji. But it is what it is. Some people have bad tastes. Happy Friday, everybody. How we all feeling? Good. I've got a I've got a call in 2 hours with a massive nonprofit who their agency is really screwing them right now. So picture this. You are a nonprofit and you've got a lot of funding, right? So you got a ton of money. But in the marketing department, you only have $1,000 for Google, $1,000 for Meta for your ad spend, and you have $4,000 to hire an outside vendor to do stuff for you. So like SEO, manage your ads, whatever. Now, because you're a nonprofit, you also benefit from a Google initiative where if you spend your allocated nonprofit ad spend, so the $1,000, you get, I don't know if this applies to everybody for the same amount, but for this organization specifically, they get an extra $10,000 in ad credits. So all they need to do is run through their 1,000, and then they get the extra 10,000 directly from Google to run their ads. So 11,000 on Google, 1,000 on Meta, and you would think, okay, 1,000 is like nothing at all on Meta, so can't really do much there. But 11,000, that's a lot on Google. Well, it's not a lot, but it's a good amount on Google. So there definitely is a play to be had there, depending on what the strategy is going to be, like whatever. So then you spend $4,000 a month contracting this agency, and this agency takes your $4,000. When you ask them, how's Meta going? They say, good. And you say, okay, cool, because we're not really seeing results. They say, don't worry about it. You say, what about the Andromeda updates? How are you guys diversifying the creative in order to take advantage of that? And they say, don't worry, we didn't opt into Andromeda. You're safe. And then you just say, okay. And then you turn to Google and you're like, how's Google? And they're like, we didn't spend the 1,000. So that's the agency that this nonprofit is dealing with. They're just getting shafted by the agency. And I don't know if she's like a marketing manager or a VP of marketing or something like that. But the woman who's in charge of the marketing department, she realizes that they're getting shafted by the agency. And so she's looking for somebody else who can do a good job for them. So that's what I'm being brought in to do, to have that first conversation with them and then just discover what their goals are and see from there then if I would be able to help them. And then best case scenario for them is they fire the agency, they hire me. I work to help them develop the paid program, like whatever they're going to do strategically, and then just help them understand the tactics and stuff, and eventually remove myself so that they can manage all of that and they don't have to rely on an external vendor. So that's how I'm doing. Spent 3 days preparing a slideshow presentation for my would-be client, only for her not to show up. She's not emailing back either. RIP. That is rough, and I'm sorry to hear that. How come you do not opt in? Well, apparently that's something you can do. You can choose which updates affect you. So if you guys want, we can start by talking about how I'm going to have this conversation. A lot of you have probably seen the old sales masterclass, so this might be a little bit repetitious of that, but I would like to refresh it. I know a lot more now. I've had a lot more high-level conversations, and literally everybody who I've spoken to in the last year or 2 years tries to hire me. So, oh yes, thank you for the ping. I will start the event. I forgot. But the unfortunate thing about everyone trying to hire me all the time is that I tell them all no. How can I watch your call replays? I don't know. Some people record them. I don't record them. I just do them live. So some people have playlists or videos, and you can go through them if you can find them. But sales conversation strategy. So when you are going into a sales conversation, there are going to be two different frames. You're either going to come into the conversation framed as an expert, like you've already got social proof and stuff. Someone did the intro, which is the case with this this nonprofit. So, for example, if someone asks me, "Hey, do you know a copywriter?" and I say, "Oh yeah, I know Nandan. He's a great guy. He's got all of this success. Go meet Nandan." Right? Then Nandan's going to have a much easier time making the sale because he got that warm introduction. The other frame would be a cold encounter. So someone who doesn't really know who you are, either you did cold outreach to them or you hit them up on Upwork and they replied and now you're sitting down for a sales conversation, or something where there's no previous relationship. Now, obviously, the more valuable type of conversation is the one where you've been pre-framed as being an expert. And so I'll show you just a little bit of what you can do to maximize that, even if you don't have anybody introducing you. Because I understand that most of your conversations are going to be cold, but one big thing that you have to be aware of is that you have a brand, right? Whether you want to or not, you have a brand. People will be able to Google you, and whatever comes up on Google, they will believe those things. I realized this for the first time in New York in 2022 when a girl that I was going on a date with, a very pretty Korean girl, she was like a self-taught UX designer. And so she's kind of like the same way that we all just taught ourselves copy. She taught herself UX design. And she lived the same kind of life that I do. She just like travels a lot. She was really cool. But I learned that she was very hesitant, didn't want to go on the date with me, and then Googled me. And then based on what she found by Googling me, she was like, oh, okay, this guy's cool. He's safe. I'll go on the date. So that's when I first realized this. And from there, then I've worked with a lot of big clients, right? Just in marketing stuff. And I've realized how impactful this is when you're operating at scale, because if you're targeting, let's say, you hit 1 million people every week with your advertising or with your content or whatever. Let's say you hit 1 million people. A small portion of those, let's just say like, well, these are made up numbers, but let's say 10% of them will be so bought in, they're ready to buy from you. And then maybe the next 30%, they're like, okay, this person's cool, but I'm going to do research before I take any action. And then maybe the last 60% is never going to buy. So I have no idea what the real numbers are, but there will be a good portion of the audience, whether for yourself or for your clients, who will do a little research before they take an action. And so you can imagine if you're having a conversation with someone, they're going to Google you, and then whatever comes up on Google, that's the stuff that they're going to believe, right? So you have a personal brand, whether you want to have a personal brand or not. And if you have a good personal brand, it's going to work in your favor. If you have a bad personal brand, it's going to handicap you. So if I just go here, I love that you guys can see all of my history. I go here and I just search Jonathan Baudouin. Whoops. There we go. So what's the stuff that comes up? Jonathan Real King Chad. We can open that up. If someone checks me out on Instagram, nothing sussy, just photos of me, right? So that's whatever. This, hey Summit, Jonathan Baudouin / that's cool. That is me speaking at Charlene's event. And here you can see that it's just like, this guy did a thing. Learn from the best, okay, cool. Doesn't really give a ton of info, but there is, there's like a credibility reel kind of. So there you go. Jonathan featured as a speaker at an event. That's good credibility. Here, I don't know what people can see on my Facebook. Yeah, so like nothing really going on here. So that's, oops, Nothing really going on here, so it's not really anything big or important. I have 500 followers, 179 following it. Wow. Then LinkedIn, Jonathan Baudouin. Here we go. RIP. Well, whatever. If they get to my LinkedIn profile, I'll just show you. If they get to my LinkedIn profile, then here I am. My LinkedIn profile comes off as this guy obviously doesn't care what people think of him, right? Vibes and KPIs, hot single copywriters near me. But then the first thing you see on my LinkedIn profile is oh, yo, shout out Ayub. I wonder what he wants. Um, all of this credibility. That's all that I have in my about. X number of money generated for all these clients. For sure, anybody who's looking me up knows at least one of these, right? ClickFunnels, super famous. Iman, super famous. Shelby, super famous with a certain audience. Pace, super famous with a certain audience. Also, he's on TV. Supra, if people are in that space, they know Supra. Dow Janes, same kind of thing, like niche famous. Mind Pump, that's the biggest health and fitness podcast. Melanin Money, they're Dow Janes is like financial education for women. Melanin Money is financial education for people of color. So they're like a black first kind of brand in the US, based in, I believe, Dallas. And the two guys who run it, super nice guys. Brian Waldron, he's like Brian is famous enough that when we were hanging out in Atlanta, we're walking around and people recognize Brian, right? So famous. Tom Cruise, not the actor, the other one. Richard Yu, big online presence. I don't know how famous or recognizable he is, but he spends a lot on ads and he's got a good organic, so recognizable. Entrepreneur Magazine, most people know what that is. Gary Brecka, a lot of people know who he is. 10x Health, same thing. Dr. Michael Diamonds, he's got 2 million YouTube subscribers. So, like all of these people, credibility real. And then here, $3 million in ad spend, $1 million per month generated in funnels for these things. 7.3 million in email attributed revenue. So that's my highlight reel. As much as you guys can do there, definitely stack your LinkedIn kind of like this. And the good thing about just having social proof like this is that people can't steal it, right? Like I used to have a really big bio, and then 3 or 4 people just copied and pasted my bio, and I was like, I'm done. So put this instead. And I don't care anymore, and nobody can say that they've done this. One way to frame it, if you guys don't have big money numbers and you don't have big names, you can frame it as like, I've worked with some of the top people, of course, with like say what's true, don't just make stuff up. But if I've worked with someone who's like a very niche coach, someone who's like a gluten intolerant health coach, right? Like very, very niche, and they're actually big in their space, then you could say something like, I've worked with some of the top health coaches, or I've worked with some of the top niche health coaches, or something like that, right? Like something that still provides a little bit of authority without dropping the name, or you can drop the name because if they are big in their niche, even if they aren't, like it doesn't matter too much. I just, of course, stacked the most recognizable names for myself. If you guys have numbers, for sure, put your numbers up. If you don't have big numbers, because I understand that like this is crazy, right? But if you don't have big numbers like this, thank you, then you can frame it as ROI. So you can see that in an old one that I did, I think down here. Yeah. So here you can see how I framed it in terms of ROI because this didn't bring in a crazy amount of money, but it did bring in a crazy amount of return, right? So write an email campaign so good it brings in 28.39x what I was paid to write it. That is writing with the reader in mind as opposed to writing about myself. So you see how we can take the numbers and we can manipulate them, not lie about them, but make it seem a lot more valuable and make it seem a lot bigger than if I were to just say, I don't know, let's say this only generated $10,000, right? $10,000 over the course of 4 emails, that's not a lot of money. But if I say that, let's say I was paid $1,000 to write those 4 emails, that's a 10x multiple, right? So I can say I wrote an email sequence that generated 10 times what I was paid to write it. If you guys can get creative about the way that you present your numbers and the way that you present your credibility reel, then that's going to help you out a lot. So we see that, and then if we keep going, I'm sure we're going to see my book somewhere. Yeah, so the copywriting cheat code right there, and then shout out to whoever gave me 1 star on Scribd. Then you see like an interview that I did. So there's a lot of stuff that lends itself to Jonathan's personal brand. If you were to Google your name, I'm not going to do this demonstration because I don't know what would come up if I Google any of your names and I don't want to embarrass anybody. But if you, um, I just noticed, I just got this caption. This is for this photo right here. Well, that's my sister's kid, Thomas, at his 4th birthday. So the caption being "Shout out to Thomas for throwing me an absolute banger of a four over a birthday party or whatever" is funny for me. But whatever comes up when you guys Google yourselves, that's going to be the brand, right? If people know what your name is, they're probably going to Google you, do a little bit of research before they engage with you. If you have a good personal brand, it's going to help. If you have a bad personal brand, it's not going to help. What can you do to make your personal branding stronger? Use your real name on your profiles. That way they come up when people search for you. Just do normal people interactions. That way people can look you up. And for example, if people see these photos, they go here, they're like, oh, Jonathan clearly has friends, so he's normal. Jonathan has traveled, so he's probably like cultured and like he can speak about stuff. Jonathan with a child, so he's not a weird like pedo, right? So if you can just stack proof that you're normal, that for sure helps in any social situation. It just makes people feel more comfortable and more at ease. It also gives people a little bit more commonality, right? If I see that you have also traveled to Athens, then I can bring that up in a conversation, or I can say, like, oh, we probably have shared interests, whatever. So using your real name on your profiles, that's going to help a lot. If you can get yourself, if this is an objective that you have, if you can't get yourself published anywhere, or like people who do podcasts or whatever, or you can reach out to people who have like smaller marketing podcasts or smaller marketing YouTube shows and be like, oh hey, saw your stuff, I really loved whatever episode when you said whatever, I have thoughts about this thing. Could we, or are you open to having me on as a guest to talk about whatever, right? If you can do things like that, and that helps you out a lot because if they put their name, or if they put your name, sorry, in the podcast title or in the YouTube video title, then that's eventually going to come up on the search engines. So that helps with your personal brand, even if the video is low in views and it's only get like 100 views. I don't know how much the one with Cameron had. Let's see, just 1.1 thousand views. So this isn't huge, right? Like my copy that stuff has, but I'm not being named in the copy that YouTube videos, so they don't come up. Um, However, just seeing those things there lends its, or you get credibility from those things. So I would recommend doing that if that's the path you want to take. Even just publishing stuff on LinkedIn, that's going to come up, right? Like sell your products using stories. That comes up for Jonathan. So posting on LinkedIn, not just posts, but like actual articles. If you have a website, you've got a blog or whatever, that helps too. When I used to have a blog, we were ranking #1 for a few copywriting related keywords. So that was cool. I think that's the majority of it when it comes to personal branding. So, do you guys understand the whole, uh, like the whole theory behind that? Does that all make sense? Yes. Okay. Perfect. Cool. So that's one thing that's going to help you out to make the introduction a little bit more warm in the case that a person does Google you. Additionally, if you're getting the warm intro, then usually the person's going to set you up kind of like that, right? Like, for example, for this nonprofit, when I was introduced to them, my name was hyperlinked to my LinkedIn profile. So it makes it easy for them to go see me. If you put your LinkedIn profile or whatever, like your credibility sources in your email signature, that can help as well. Whatever you want to do to stack the odds in your favor. But you come into that conversation. Regarding the photos, I know recent ones should be used, but what's the oldest they should be? Photos of what specifically? Photos of you where specifically? on social media, just like whatever, it's your social media. It's your normal stuff. Let's go. Low key, perfect timing for real. Like, if you go on my Instagram, I have no idea when this was posted, but I was still living in Montreal, so it was probably 2018-ish. So this is eight 8 years ago almost. Like, it doesn't matter, it's just your Instagram, so it's whatever. As long as people can see that you're real and you're normal, that's the main idea. Outside of that, then yeah, for real, just look max, easy. I in different habitats, my natural find. Just honestly, it's like whatever. Don't overthink it. Just get some photos. One thing that I really like is doing photo shoots in places that I go to. So you'll see. Actually, I don't have a ton posted on Instagram. I guess just this one, but I have a lot of photos on my drive that are like professional photos of me just doing different stuff, traveling in different places and whatever. So it's just a fun little thing that I like to do for myself. If you can afford it, it's not super expensive, but I understand that it is expensive if you don't have the money for it. If you can afford it, do it. It's fun. You get photos. Possible. Then what's next? Now you get into the conversation. If you're framed up as an expert, a warm introduction, you're good, it's going to be a lot easier. If it's a cold introduction, it's going to be a little bit tougher because you need to build the trust. But still, even if it's a warm intro, you should be building trust. So we're going to talk about them as if they're the same thing. Just know that there's a little bit of a distinction because the cold intro is going to require more work on your part to demonstrate that authority. And the warm intro, like you can mess up a lot more. So cold, cold, a little bit tougher, warm, a little bit easier. But either way, you want to present yourself as an authority. So how do you do that? The number one thing is that you need to have a good reason why behind everything that you say, and you need to explain that reason why, right? That's one thing that I've realized a lot, or in a lot of the conversations I've had. Most people, when they sell themselves, especially in our space, like marketing, sales people, I guess, like however you want to call us, marketing service providers, when we sell ourselves in our space, it's the same as any other sales space, but we're selling ourselves, so it's a little bit different. Imagine you go to a car dealership, right? And you're trying to buy a Honda Civic. Is the car salesman going to tell you, oh yeah, this baby, she's the third best on the lot? No. The car salesman is going to tell you this is the best car. In the same way, when a marketing service provider, copywriter, media buyer, whatever, gets into a sales conversation, they're not going to say, I'm the third best media buyer, I'm the third best copywriter, I'm the third best whatever. They're going to say, I'm the best, right? Not in those words exactly, but they're going to try to have a conversation with a person as if they're the best. That's the standard. And people don't believe that because that is what is expected, right? So how do you differentiate yourself from that and from those people and make yourself seem like you're above them? If you just say, actually, no, I'm better, then like what advantage are you giving them? What advantage are you giving yourself? Because you've got you who's saying, I promise I'm better, and then this guy who's saying, I promise I'm better. So it's really just you guys arguing against each other, and I just pick the one who I want to believe. Excuse me. There's no real, um, there's no real way for me to distinguish who's better or who's not. And anyone who comes in with that level of certainty, typically, the one who is most certain will be the one who wins, right? But you can just separate yourself from that group of people by taking an entirely different approach. So with the certainty thing, you'll have, let's say, me versus Yusuf. If Yusuf goes into a sales conversation and he's like, hey, I promise I can get you these results, and I'm like, hey, I promise I can get you these results, and they're like, why do you think that? And Yusuf is like, oh, well, I've done a few campaigns, and I'm thinking we could do this, this, and that, and da 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 da. And then I'm like, bro, trust me, I've ripped $1 million on like 100 webinars, and we're going to do the same thing for you. They're going to go with me because they're like, oh, well, this guy's more confident that he can make us a ton of money. This guy was a little bit more like analytical and a little bit less confident. So that's why I'm going to go with this guy. But you can separate yourself from that conversation entirely by becoming more, I don't know if this is a word in English, interrogative, like asking questions as opposed to saying things. So instead of prescribing, right, instead of just being like, oh yeah, we can do X, Y, Z, and it's going to make you $1 billion, what you should do is ask a bunch of questions and then lead them down the path that gets them to the answer that you want them to give you. For example, I had a conversation, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, with a brand. The guys do YouTube automation. So YouTube automation, what that is it's a business opportunity offer. And it's when you do AI content, or I guess it doesn't always have to be AI content, but it's content that you aren't doing yourself, that you're putting up on YouTube, that you're using to create a big channel, that you're then monetizing through YouTube, through the ads, and through like affiliates and whatever, like whatever else is going on in the back. So just a standard BizOp thing on YouTube. I had some conversations, or I had a conversation with some guys who were doing YouTube automation as their offer. And the big thing that they're struggling with right now is they're paid. They don't feel comfortable scaling because their paid is not stable. The stability that they want is, I don't remember the exact number, but let's say they want above 2 times ROAS every single time they run their webinar. They run their webinar once a week. And let's say 1 week they're getting 10x, the next week they're getting 0.1x. So they see these huge fluctuations in their revenue or in their return on ad spend. And their business is not bad because the big spikes compensate for the really low lows. However, they don't feel comfortable scaling because what if I put $100,000 behind a webinar 1 week and then I get the 0.1? Then that's a lot of money that I'm losing, right? So they came to me and they're like, hey, this is our big problem. It's that our stuff is not stable. So me as the person who is the detective in this sales conversation, instead of saying, for sure, bro, I can fix that. Don't worry, we'll get it stable. I want to dig in and figure out what is the real reason why they have the instability. And if I can make them realize that they don't have the answer, but I have better hypotheses as to why than they do, then that gives me the authority. So imagine this conversation. Let's say Nandan is the guy with the automation offer. I'm the guy who is coming in to the sales conversation as the service provider. Nandan says, hey, tell me a little bit about you. And I'm like, oh, well, this is my background. Now tell me a little bit about your offer. And he's like, oh, well, this is our background. And I'm like, okay, cool. So let me understand then, what is the big bottleneck for you guys right now? That is the number one thing, right? So that's where you start. You start by asking 100%. Copywriting is really just doing enough research to whatever, right? So start with the question about bottlenecks, because the only reason someone will be unable to achieve a result or scale is because there's a bottleneck. Some people just want to hire you to write a sales page or to write some emails or whatever, right? That's going to be a different conversation. If someone wants to hire you to scale, that's like conversation B. So we'll talk about conversation B first, and then we'll go to single services. So if somebody's hiring you to scale, they say, okay, cool, we want you to write some ads, we want you to do whatever, like that's what the initial framing was. Cool. You ask them, what is the bottleneck right now? Like, why are you not able to achieve the goals that you have? And that's where the conversation starts. If you can discover what the bottleneck is, then you can diagnose why the bottleneck exists, and then you can prescribe something to resolve that, right? And the more questions you ask, the more you're going to come off as an expert, because other people will not have asked these questions. Every single conversation I have or have had over the last like year or whatever, the people who I'm speaking to, they say something along the lines of, wow, you're the only person to have asked me that. Which is crazy, because to get to the right answer, you need to ask these questions. So start by asking what their bottleneck is, and then you use your logic to go through what the possible reasons could be for that bottleneck, right? And this is where your marketing mind and your strategy come into play a little bit. If someone has a bottleneck, like let's say it's me and Nandan again. Nandan has the YouTube automation offer, and Nandan says, I don't have, like, I'm not confident to scale because I'm not consistent or the ads aren't bringing in consistent return on ad spend. And I say, okay, cool. Why is it that they're not bringing in consistent return on ad spend? Nandan probably won't have ever thought about that. And he'll be like, oh, well, some weeks it's at 10x, some weeks it's at 0.1x, and I just don't know why. To which I reply, okay, well, then let's look at the data, right? Because you can't prescribe something if you don't know what's actually happening. So then we look at the data. And then in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what are the reasons why return on ad spend is struggling? Is it because we are getting a higher cost per click or because we are getting a lower earnings per click, right? Are we spending more money or are we making less money on the weeks where it's not stable? If I see that the earnings per click is consistent all the way across, right? And earnings per click would just be how much revenue I'm generating divided by the number of clicks total. So on my ads specifically, and I can do that for like any channel, but on these ads, if I'm seeing that I've got 1,000 clicks and I made $1,000, then I've got a $1 earning per click. And if I see that stable all the way across for performance, I know that it's not a funnel issue because sales are staying the same. If I look at the ads and I see that the cost per click, some weeks it's 10 cents, other weeks it's $15, then I know that it's an ads issue, right? Because on the weeks that I'll be spending 1 or 10 cents per click, of course, I'm going to make a lot more money. That's my 10x. If I'm spending $15 per click and I only made $1 per click, then I'm losing $14, right? So right away there I can assess, is it an ads issue? Is it a funnel issue? If it's a funnel issue, then I know that there's something on the back that I need to fix. If it's an ads issue, I know there's something on the front I need to fix. So now I've determined, okay, cool, your cost per click is fluctuating like crazy. So let's look at that. What determines cost per click? Two factors: your CPM, the amount of money you're spending for 1,000 impressions, and your click-through rate, how many people are clicking on the ad who see it. So then I can look at those two metrics and I can say, is my cost per 1,000 impressions going up and going down? Is that what's messing with it? Or is my click through rate going up and going down and that's what's messing with it? And then based on what I see there, then if the CPM is fluctuating, then I ask myself, why is the CPM fluctuating? What changed week to week to do that? And then I have like a repertoire of answers in my brain for what could be affecting that, and then I try to find which one of those actually applies, and then I can come up with a strategy based on that. Or if I see that it's the click-through rate that's fluctuating, same thing, library of answers, pick the ones that make the most sense, and then I can create a strategy based on that. So the more you can learn about marketing, the better you can diagnose these things, and we can continue to talk about this kind of stuff in office hours, because I understand that it takes exposure to these things to be able to understand them, right? But even that, just the thing about CPC and EPC, if you can put that into your brain, then that's a huge strategic advantage that you have that most other people don't know, right? So CPC, EPC, you look at that, you can determine if it's an ad problem or if it's a funnel problem. So you can diagnose things like that, and then the deeper you go into it, the more you can ask for data, the more you can look at these things, then you can know specifically like, oh, this is outside of the benchmark, or this is where the issue is. We see that this dropped or spiked week to week, and it's as easy as just going, yeah, earnings per click, EPC. Um, it's as simple as just going like, show me the data on your best week, and then show me the data on your worst week, and then we'll see what the difference was. If you see that and actually I'll pull up a spreadsheet real quick. Give me one sec. Just so I can show you guys exactly what I mean. Um, just gonna find it. One sec. All right. I'll answer that if you mute yourself, Roy. So Here we can see this is my ad performance for Dr. Mike. With this, I've got all of the important metrics laid out from my ad metrics here to my submissions for my applications all the way up until here, my booked calls all the way up until here, and then my sales all the way up until here. So if you ask me what was the best week that you guys had versus what was the worst week that you guys had, I can scroll through all of this data. And if they don't have this data, then that's a big W for you because you can just be like, oh, well, if you don't have the data, how are we supposed to do anything? Get me the data and then I'll be able to help, right? But if they do have this data and they can pull it up for you, some businesses will, then you can look at it and be like, okay, cool. So your best weeks were, let me just see. Obviously, this is very low volume. We don't have a ton of sales, so it's not going to be fantastic. But here, let's say we've got a sale there, we've got a sale there, we've got a sale here, here, and this one. So let's just say we've got sales here. Then what I would want to do is ask myself, what happened on these weeks that did not happen on the other weeks? Obviously, close percentage is up, right? So was it just a close issue? Well, let's look at the qualified apps. Qualified apps are pretty much the same all the way through. Booked calls are pretty much the same all the way through. Calls scheduled pretty much the same all the way through. Sales is where it drops off. So I know then it's a sales issue. So what are the things that we can do to improve the sales process? Is it the salespeople, or is it like, is there anything that I can do on the front end with my marketing to pre-frame people better? And then I can look at the email sequences and be like, oh, well, actually, week to week, we were using the exact same email sequences. So I could for sure beef those up, but that would not be the determining factor because that was stable on the weeks that we got sales and the weeks that we did not get sales. So then it would come down to a salesperson issue. Or if I look over here, I know that recently we had some really good days. So here, here, here. So we can see here that we've got a lot of applications on these days. So I can look here and I can say, okay, cool. Do I have a lot of qualified also, right? And oh yeah, I do have a lot of qualified, except for on this day, there weren't. So what was it that was special about these days, or specifically the days where I had the most qualified applications, like let's say this one? Did anything change versus the other days? So I can look for outliers in the data and really just trace it back and be like, what happened on the days or weeks where things were the best versus what happened on days or weeks where things were the worst. And then based on that, I can provide my feedback or my recommendations. Now, this is a much smarter way to do the sales process than if you're just going in and saying, I'm the best copywriter, I'm the best strategist, I'm the smartest guy. For sure, those guys make sales too, but they're the scummy guys that I don't want to be associated with, so it's whatever. But yes, a lot of people do just say, I'm the best, and then people hire them, and then those people get disappointed. With a strategy like this, where you're being a lot more data driven and you're assessing their stuff, and then you're prescribing based on your assessments, that's going to set you apart from everybody else. You versus somebody who's just saying, I'm the best, then coming in with something like this will probably clinch the sale for you. Any questions on this?
So basically, it boils down to like knowing as much about like a subject as possible to like in the call itself, you are giving them like more of a custom solutions that they know okay how you're going to execute things.
Exactly. And also keeping in mind that you don't need to do a one call close, right? Because if they don't have all of their data, then you just will end it on, okay, cool. Well, can you get me the data? And then I can look through it and then I can tell you what the game plan is, right? And that, I guess, strategy, like just not trying to push for the single call close, is going to be very helpful for you as well because that further proves how much of an expert you are. It's like a doctor, right? Like a doctor is going to see you, and for sure they can assess things immediately if you give them enough information. But sometimes the doctor is going to tell you need to do tests, and then you're going to go what, like a few weeks, a few months going through tests before they can actually determine what's wrong, which will then enable them to give you the proper diagnosis. So think of it like that. if you're trying to sell something that's more like a single service, 100%, yeah. If you're trying to sell something that's like a single service, like just write a one-off email campaign or write a sales page or write something else, then this obviously doesn't apply to that because this is a much more strategic approach, a much more long-term approach, and a much more like I'm going to be very involved in your business. If someone comes to you and they say, "Hey, a, I just want an email sequence for people who buy my low ticket item to ascend them into my high ticket item," right? Or I just want a sales page or whatever. This strategy, you might be familiar with it if you've watched my sales masterclass on Copy That's YouTube channel. It's still the same thing. Essentially, all you want to do is drive that conversation away from a one-time service or one-time deliverable to ongoing service, or at least a much bigger package. And then you can kind of steer the conversation in a direction like this too. So imagine Jonathan comes to you and he says, "Hey, I'm just looking for someone to write a sales page for my new $47 offer." Then what would you say? You could say, "Okay, cool. I'll write the sales page for you, and I'm the best sales page writer, and I will charge you $1,500 and it'll be done in 2 weeks." You could do something like that. Or alternatively, you start asking questions and you're like, "Okay, cool. Can you tell me more about your offer?" "Oh, it's to sell my copywriting book." And then you say, "Okay, cool. Where's the traffic going to be coming from?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've got a big email list. I'm also going to run some ads to it from Meta." And you say, "Oh, okay. No, that's smart. Are you writing the emails yourself? Are you writing the ads yourself? Are you writing the scripts yourself? Are you doing the dot, 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 dot? What about after somebody buys? Do you have upsells in mind? Do you have those pages? Do you have the VSLs for those? Do you have the email sequences to ascend them if they don't buy the upsells? Do you have downsells? What are you doing on the back end of that? Do you have any kind of nurture that's going to try to drive them back to other stuff? What does your offer suite look like, right?" And you can start to create all of these loops for them and expose the holes in their business where there is more opportunity for revenue for them. And then once you get to the end of that, you can just bring it full circle and be like, "Okay, cool. So yeah, I would love to help you with the sales page. I don't think the sales page is going to be super effective by itself. So I would also recommend we do all these things that you just discovered that could help," right? So all of the upsells, all of the downsells, the VSLs, the ads, the scripts for the videos, the emails on the back end of everything, that whole suite of deliverables. And then the person can say, "Okay, cool, that sounds good. You sound like an expert because you knew all of these things that I needed for my funnel to work. So I trust you. How much is that going to cost?" And then you say, let's say, "Oh, it's $10,000, right?" And then they'll either say, "Okay, perfect. That's a lot of work. $10,000 sounds like it's worth it." That will be a very small percentage of people. Most people will say, "Oh, it's so much more expensive than I thought." And then you can reply with, "Okay, perfect. I get that. It is really expensive. And to get like a full proper marketing system built out, it definitely does take a lot of time. And that's why it costs a lot of money, because I want to be sure that everything is done right, and we really maximize the revenue. But I understand that that's a lot of money for you right now, so don't worry about it. What we can do instead is let me think about some other options. We could go for the full package for $10,000. You get all this really cool stuff. Or we could go for this lower package with less stuff and it would cost this much. And this is what I see as really just being the essentials, right? So really minimum 1, 2, 3 are the assets that you would need. If we were to do that, what I really want is to have a long-term relationship with you. I want you to make a lot of money from this. That way we can work together again and continue building this out and really build out your ecosystem and all this stuff. So what I would like to do is offer you a rate of $4,000 for these things that I think would be necessary. And then once things get going and you see the profits start to come in, then we can talk again about implementing all the other stuff. And instead of charging just like a big one-time fee for everything, we can kind of drip it out, where first I'll work on this and then we'll see the revenue go up. And then next I'll work on this and we'll see the revenue go up. And then we can just continue to optimize things. How does that sound? Right? So then we can go and frame what was just, "Hey, can you write me a sales page?" as, let's build out this whole marketing ecosystem together. And that's how I used to do it when I was on Upwork. I would get these one-time gigs, and then during the sales conversation, I would just upsell them into these much bigger packages, if you will. How would you go about finding the bottleneck in an underperforming funnel? Look at the KPI of each stage of the funnel and see where they drop off. Yes, exactly. So it would be like, let me just share the screen again. It'd be like if I saw these stats, and first I'm going to start by looking at my cost per click and my earnings per click. Obviously, right now, like I said, this funnel is like, there's a sales problem. So we've got 36 cents per click earning and $5.12 per click spent in the last 30. This top row up here is last 30 days. So I know that it's an ads problem, or I guess not an ads problem. I know that it's a funnel problem because my ads, they're pretty consistent. And if I want to validate that, I can look at my CPMs as well. CPMs are actually coming down, so that's good, right? Like my ads are performing better. The clicks, they're pretty much stable. The click-through rate is coming down. But if you look at the click-through rate relative to the CPM, they're coming down about evenly. So the CPC is staying pretty stable, right? Like even if my CPM drop, or sorry, even if my CTR drops and my CPM drops at the same time, my cost per click is going to stay the same. There is something to be said about the quality of the audience, right? So if I see that my costs are going down on my ads, and let's say this went from $5 to $2, that's not always a good thing if it's sabotaging everything else downstream, because I could just be getting more cheap garbage people, which I would be able to assess if I look at this, right? Like these next steps, this is the first stage of the funnel where I've got my applications. So the way that this funnel works is we've got our meta ads. They go to a landing page with a VSL. Underneath there's a button. Button has an application form open. People put in their information in the form. They're qualified or disqualified based on whether or not they can afford us. If they're disqualified, they are just told to go to the YouTube channel. If they're qualified, then they have the opportunity to book. If they book, then hopefully they show up to the call. If they show up to the call, then hopefully they close. Those are the stages. Very, very simple funnel. Here I look at my my applications. My cost per app isn't really changing over the last 30 days. So you'll see there are definitely some days where it spikes. Like here we've got 313, 267, 391, 365. Like those are obviously more expensive days. That's really, really high. And if I wanted to, I could go and see like, oh, are these all happening around the same week, or like what's going on, or the same day of the week, what's going on there? It was Black Friday, Cyber Monday recently, so people a little bit more distracted. Like there are different factors to consider, but doesn't matter too much because overall my costs are still pretty low for my cost per app. Cost per app, stable. Okay, cool. So that's probably not an issue. Now I can look at my disqualified versus my qualified percentage. If I'm getting a lot more disqualified people, it doesn't matter if my cost per app is staying stable because my disqualification rate is higher, right? And if from one week to the next, I'm paying the same amount for all of my applications, but I'm getting 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 100% more disqualified people, then that means I'm attracting a much worse audience. So what did I change that made a worse audience come in? Here, though, I can see that last 30 to last 7 is pretty stable. This was a crazy day. I don't know if we got so many applications on this day that were disqualified, but literally nothing in the funnel changed. We just see these spikes every once in a while, so it's whatever. But like, don't be emotional, just be logical. If the trend is normal, then it's fine. And here we can see that the trend is about 50% disqualification rate, which means about 50% qualification rate, which is good. Here we had 5 qualified apps, which is a crazy amount. Here we had 4, here we had 4, right? So we've got, in the same way that we have big spikes on the disqualified, we also have big spikes on the qualified. We're averaging 2 per day, last 30, last 14, and last 7. So it's fine, right? Like things are pretty stable. From week to week, it's about 50-50. So that's not an issue. If I look at my booked calls, then my booked call percentage is going down from the last 30 to my last 7. In my last 14, it's come up, right? So my call booking rate is up. Here you can see that some days are weird because it's like 200, 200, 100. This is because on the sales team we have a person called a setter, and the setter's job is to take the leads who did not book, or part of his job is to take the leads who did not book and try to get them to book a call. So this is not always people who opted in on that day getting booked. Some of these people, they have they've opted in before and they're only booking at a later date. So that's why these numbers are skewed. But these numbers at the top are doing calculations based on all these numbers at the top and not the average of here. So these are accurate, despite this being like misrepresentative. So here I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, cool. As long as we're above like 50%, I'm fine. Above 60%, I'm good, right? So we're above 60%, I'm fine, I'm good. I know that everything's kind of working the way it should be. So not a huge dip, not a huge spike, everything's cool. Cost per book call, last 30, 360, last 7, 480. This is a big increase, right? So here I could say to myself, this is actually a problem. What's going on here? We've got a lot of days back to back where we are spiking, right? My allowable cost per call, what I want to go for, is 360-ish. So what's above 360? We've got this day, 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 this day. So there are a lot of days that are above my allowable cost per call. And I determine my allowable cost per call just by doing my math, where I know if, let's say we're closing at 40, I'll actually pull that up after and I'll show you guys. So just put a pin in that. I'll show you the math after. But here, these days are spiking. Now, I know for a fact that the reason why the cost per call is so high here is because we have limited availability. So even if people are qualified, they might not find a good time for them to book the call, right? And so if I look at these days and then I look at our calendars for the sales team, I know that the reason why the cost per call is so high is because of limited calendar availability. That is my bottleneck then. I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I can't spend more on my booked calls because it's way too expensive right now. The reason why it's too expensive is because we don't have enough salespeople with enough open slots. And so the fix for this is to get more openings on the calendar, which is impossible right now because the calendar is determined by the number of people who can take calls. And the people who take calls, 2 of them are on vacation. One of them is also a coach in the program, and so his time is very limited. And then our closer, he just left. So, like our dedicated closer, he just left. So we can't really do much about this right now. So we just kind of have to coast. Here you can see in the last couple of days, I've just been playing with the calendar availability a little bit, like setting further days out and opening up slots and stuff. So it kind of sucks, but that's the situation we're in, and that's why things are not stable. So in this case, I would know that's my bottleneck just by seeing this spike from 360 in the last 30 to 480 in the last 7. And then I would be able to ask the person who I'm speaking to, why did that spike? And if they don't know, if they do know, then fine, awesome. Then I'm like, okay, cool, perfect. So what can we do to fix that? If they don't know, then I'm like, okay, well, the reasons could be this, right? Like it's just going back to the library of things I have in my head that can help me determine what the reason is why the cost per book call could spike. And the drop off is between someone who's a qualified applicant to the calendar. So what are the things that happen in that step? It could be that the page is not loading properly, right? Like someone applies and then they get qualified. Are they being forwarded to the page correctly? If not, then how could they book the call? So there's that, right? If I check that and that's good, then what's the next thing? Calendar on the page. Is there enough space on the calendar for people to book? If the answer is yes, then good. If the answer is no, then that's where the issue is. If both of those things are good, what else is happening in that step? Well, not really anything. So now I can go to the technical side. I can look at my automations and see, okay, cool. If someone is qualified but is not booking, is there, or like it's not being reported they book? Is there an automation that's broken that's just not reporting it, and actually there are more people booking? So I would check my data, which I can do inside of software called Hyros, which captures all of my leads and everything. There's also like my sales CRM and Zapier. There's a lot of tech that can track all of this. But simplest way to do it is just for me to go into here and seeing, okay, cool. Let's say this is from yesterday. So these 3 people came in from my ads yesterday, where all 3 of them reported, yes, I have 3 booked calls yesterday. Okay, cool. So it's not that problem. What about on the second? Do I have 2 people reported on the second? This is 1 on the second, and this is 2 on the second. Yes, okay, perfect. So it's not a reporting issue. So I know that all of these calls are being reported properly, so it's not that. Then I can think about optimization. After I've determined that there is no break or no drop in the stuff that's running and it's all working correctly, then I'm like, okay, cool. On the automation side, what can I do? Can I add email sequences and text message sequences for the people who qualified but did not book to try and push them to book again? What can I do strategically there? Can I do something in the sales process to contact these people who qualified and did not book, right? So there's a lot of stuff I can do. And if I were to go further, I can do the same like all the way down the funnel. But here, that's what the issue is. So if I go then into here and I look at my automations, I know that I would show you guys the sales automations too, but I don't know what kind of sensitive data is in there. And I can't think of what dashboards I would have to go through. So I just don't want to reveal any contact information. But there are sales automations there, and then there are marketing automations in here. This is high level, which is a marketing and sales CRM, but we use Close as our sales CRM. So I've got stuff in here, and then I've got stuff in Close. In here, there's a sequence for anybody who is a qualified app, which just goes like this. It gets assigned to the setter, and then they get an SMS, which is just, is this contact first name? And then what happens next? They get an email that is basically the same thing. Hey, this is Dr. Mike. Just wanted to know that we received your application. Just if it landed in promotions, tap spam, whatever, move it over. Turn on the ringer on your phone because we're going to be hitting you up. And then it waits 5 minutes and it checks to see if they booked or if they did not book. If they did not book, then they're going to get this SMS as well as an email. But the email is going to come from the sales CRM, and the email is pretty much the same wording as this. This is, let's say Jonathan is the setter. So this is Jonathan with Scald by Science. I noticed you didn't book a call with the team about your custom health protocol. Have you already found another program, or are you still looking? Because we're trying to get them to reply, right? So that first message is going to go out. It's going to be like, is this Jonathan? And then I either reply yes or no, or I don't say anything. And then no matter what, they get this if they didn't book, just to be like, hey, are you still looking or did you find something else? If they reply yes, then that opens the door to the conversation and everything goes smoothly. So those are the things that I can play with to try to increase my booking rate here. And that's probably why we saw the jump from 50% to 60%, because I implemented these automations over the last like week and a half, 2 weeks ish. So now that the volume's going out and that we're getting people to be activated in this way, the setters and the closers are getting used to the new stuff, it's natural that the book call percentage would go up. And if we're going up by 10 points, for every 10 people who come into the funnel, an extra 1 person books a call. That's pretty significant, not at the amount of spend that we're at because it's very low spend, but if we were to go to scale and we're at like $1,000 per day, $10,000 per day, $20,000 per day, $30,000 per day, then you can imagine if we're getting booked calls at, we'll say that we're within KPI at 350, then how many booked calls is that? And if we're getting an extra 10 points worth of booked calls, how many extra booked calls is that, right? It would be crazy. So these are the things that you can play with, and you've just got to think strategically. First, is something broken? If yes, then let me fix it. If no, then what can I do to optimize? And then you plug in those pieces for the optimization. Did I miss anything, or does anybody have any questions? All right, while we're typing, I also want to show you guys some really cool stats. because I was just looking over stuff this morning. This is my booking or call reminder sequence. So these emails are going to go out to anybody who has booked a call. Through our calendars, there are triggers to send 24 hours before, 12 hours before, 6 hours before, 1 hour before, 15 minutes before, and 5 minutes before. They're also getting, let me show you inside of Whimsical. They're also getting a bunch of other emails and SMS from Dr. Mike. They're also getting voicemails from Dr. Mike. They're getting stuff from the setter. They're getting stuff from the closers. So they are being hit by so many messages. Now, do you guys think this is good or bad? Do you think a person would get annoyed? Do you think that my email open rate would be high, that it would be low? Like, obviously, if Jonathan's doing this, he believes it's the right thing. But do you think that sending this volume of messages is going to hurt my email rate and that I don't care about it being lower because it's going to be better for me in the sales process? Or do you think that this is going to increase my email open rate and actually benefit to everything that I'm trying to do? You think that it's lower and I don't care, or you think that it's higher and it's just like, it's goated? How long did it take you to set up that funnel? A long time, because this was the first thing that we stood up. So like all the research and then writing the VSL and then writing all the ads, and we've got multiple ads. I'm managing all the ads as well. Doing all these sequences took me like 2 weeks to write the copy plus set up the automations. The automations were really tough because we have a lot of different systems that have to work together. So I've been working on this. I think we launched in, when did we launch? We launched on September 8th. So that's how long it's been. If a more copy related question about angles, then we will get to that later. Just remind me. I just want to show this first. I've seen some automations around SMS and WhatsApp integrations. How do these perform if you're using them? We can't really track that because we don't know if, like, we can't see SMS opens because that's not a metric that exists. So all we can know is were they delivered or were they not delivered? And the answer is yes, they were delivered. I think the timing of the SMS could be even more important of a factor, more important than what? I think it'll benefit you because it shows you give a F if it's personalized as well, high open rate. Yes, correct. I'm thinking it depends on what's being said for sure. And also it's probably valuable. So I'll show you guys what all these messages are and what their stats are. Here, call reminder 1, 50% open rate, which is kind of crazy. Oh, I should not open that because that's going to show people's emails. So crazy that it's like exactly 50%. But here you can see 50% open on call reminder email 1 that goes out 24 hours before. 58, almost 59% opens on call reminder email 2. 55 on call reminder email 3. 83 on number 4. And then 62% on number 5. Who else is writing emails right now that's getting an 83% open rate? Jonathan is. So I'll show you what each of these messages and emails contains. Now 24 hours before, what am I trying to do? Subject line, always trying to use curiosity in these ones to get them to open. And then also making sure that I mention exactly what it's about in the subject line so that people understand why they should open it. That, I think, those are the two most important factors here. Always saying this is information about the call that you're about to have so that people remember what it is, and then creating curiosity to get the open. Here, this email is really just instructions and then trying to overcome objections for the sales process. So number 1, be ready to take the call in a quiet place with no distractions. Important. Come prepared with any relevant information that could help us better understand your situation. Important, right? Like these are two critical things for the sales process. If you're married, please let your wife know you're going to be taking this call. Why? Is Rex still here? Oh, shoot, Rex is not still here. So I was going to ask Rex, why is this important? Oh, yeah, I heard that the scriptwriter for YouTube put that in a video one time, and I was like, wow, that's good. I'm going to use that in the emails. So shout out to her. Her name is Savo. She's fantastic. I love her. Um, in the sales process, one of the most common objections, no matter what you're selling, no matter who you're selling to, is I need to ask my partner, right? So if you're married, please let your wife know that you're going to be taking this call, is hopefully going to have them have that conversation with their wife so that the wife knows, hey, bro's about to try to spend some money on a health thing. And then down here we have add to your calendar, and then down here we have book a new time. So that's email one. SMS number one. All of these SMS are framed as automated reminder. So this is just like, hey, your call's coming up. Instructions to join the call have been sent to the email. This, I thought I was very clever for doing this because my thinking was use this to get the logistical information out of the way and then also put something in here to try to boost my open rates of my emails, right? So that's a little bit of big brain Jonathan strategy right there. Then email number two that goes out 12 hours before. This one is really just, I'm going to change this to be another overcome objections kind of email, but I'm still developing all the messaging on this. I have different priorities, so I haven't come back to this. This one's just, hey, here are the links. You can see we've got an 11% click rate. Why? Probably my hypothesis is that it's because I said this. I didn't give them the link to join. I told them the link to join will be included when you add it to your calendar, right? Big brain strategy. Because what do I want them to do? I want them to add it to their calendar. And so I'm telling them, add it to your calendar, and then you'll get the thing you want, which is the thing you need to join the call. So that's probably why my click through rate is so high. Then we go down and wait 6 hours before. Call reminder, email number 3. And here we've got more of a long form thing. Just 6 hours until, and then we tease the program and we build up the value. You're going to work directly with me and a team of medical doctors. Everything we do is highly personalized. The goal is to get you the best results as quickly as possible and make sure those results stick. And then just like the same links at the bottom there. So this one's pretty cool. Same thing here with the SMS automated reminder. And then, hey, we sent some information so that you can be prepared for the call. Then 1 hour before, this one has a crazy high open rate. Why? Probably because it says important. This is the last thing that you need to know. And this one's just a logistical email. So, hey, here's the appointment link. And then the SMS, same thing as always, automated reminder. Link has been sent here. So 1 hour before they get the link, and then 15 minutes before, this one is just an SMS, no email here. Just, hey, please join the call right now. Make sure that you can connect. Make sure that your camera's working. Make sure that your mic is working. And then 5 minutes before, they get this final email that's just another logistical one with, hey, here's the appointment link. And then the SMS is trying to frame it as, please join from your computer. But if for any reason it's impossible to join from your computer, join from your phone or your tablet. It's the same link. It's just that I would rather they join from their computer because then they're going to be more focused. Like I've seen sales calls where bro joins from his phone and then he's walking around the whole time and he goes outside and then he goes and he yells at his mom and he comes back and he sits on the couch. Like that's not the best environment to sell somebody. So trying to get them to join from their computer, but I would rather them join from their phone than not join at all. So that's what's going on in this email sequence. So these automations are designed to increase the show up rates for the calls they will take. Yes, correct. Exactly. The product is very solid. Yeah, it's a really good offer. One of the best offers I've ever worked on for sure. How does it feel walking around with that big brain of yours? My neck hurts. I think it's not a big volume, like it's not spamming. I think it's good since they'll most likely forget the message. Yeah, 100%. Like another thing about copywriting, people think that their readers and their viewers care a lot more than they actually do. So just remember that nobody actually values the stuff that you're sending them. Nobody reads their emails. Like nobody cares. If you can send the same newsletter email probably like every single Monday or every single first Monday of the month for a year before anybody's like, wait a minute, didn't I read this last Monday? Or like people will not remember that kind of stuff. All right. If you guys want to drop any questions not related to this, now's the time because that is everything that I wanted to show you on this side. I have a few other things, but I have to go in 20 minutes to get onto that call with a nonprofit. So I would rather spend that 20 minutes answering your questions than just getting into more theory. Yes, ask your copy angle question and any other questions that anybody else has. You're free to ask those now. How do you go about taking different angles on beliefs? E.g., let's say my avatar's desire is to be able to go out for a run and exercise again because they have foot pain and that is holding them back, with the offer being pain relief shoes. How would you take an angle on this belief slash desire? So when I think about angles, I think about the presentation of, or I guess not necessarily presentation, I guess like the words used, so kind of presentation, but the words used to attack that belief. So if my belief is the desire that I want to be able to walk again, my pain is that I have foot pain and I cannot walk. My obstacle is like, oh, my feet hurt, right? Like, however you're going to frame that for yourself. But the desire is I want to leave the house and I want to be able to walk. Then different angles that I can take on that. If you were to open any copywriting book, you would have like a list of headlines or a list of hooks or something like that. The angle would just be one of those. So if I think of one of my favorite copywriting books, I think it was the first one I ever read, How to Write a Good Advertisement by Victor Schwab, I believe. Yep, by Victor Schwab. He's got a list of top 100 headlines or something like that. So in there, you'll have something like always the bridesmaid, never the bride, I believe is one of them. If you think, how can I apply this headline structure to my shoes? What is this headline structure trying to do? Always the bridesmaid, never the bride is playing into shame. It's playing into social value. It's playing into comparison and contrast, right? So now that's how I'm thinking about it. Okay, I've got always the bridesmaid, never the bride. It's playing on a person's shame. And so what can I do with the desire of I want to be able to walk to play into a person's shame? Well, there are a few things that I could do, right? I could have the shame of having to tell my group of girlfriends, let's say I'm an old lady, right? My group of girlfriends that, again, no, I can't go for a walk with you. We're all retired, right? And going for a walk with you would get me out of the house. Everybody's doing it. It's a lot of fun. The weather's great. But I'm going to say no. Again, how long is it going to be before you stop inviting me? I can go with the shame of having to do the same kind of thing, but with my grandkids, right? They come over and I'm like, oh no, sorry, grandma can't go play outside because she has plantar fasciitis, right? Like they're not going to understand that. And so all I can say is, no, grandma can't go play. And they kind of look at each other disappointed and think, or one of them says to the other, see, I told you, right? Something like that. Or old lady sitting on a rocking chair on the balcony watching another old couple walking down the street, walking their dog, and then her husband comes out and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm going to take the dog for a walk," and he doesn't even ask her if she wants to come. All right. So those are just three different angles that I can take on shame specifically for the desire of I want to be able to go and walk without pain. Does that make sense? I don't want anybody to get nitro, but I do feel that way about you, Paul. No problem. I do recommend that book by Victor Schwab. Schwab is spelled like this. Let's see. To be exact, I think, for example, somebody getting an SMS at like 12 a.m. wouldn't probably read it because they're sleeping. But for example, during like lunch break, it could be a good time for the text to arrive since the person does not eat food or does eat food. Food is yummy equals happy and those good associations. And they're probably on their phone. Yeah, if you want to get super, super strategic about it, you set it to their local time zone because you can do that. So you can be like, send this at this person's 7 a.m. But for something like this, it's just easier to do it based on time before the event because there are a lot of other parts of the automation that can function better if I'm doing it like that. So yes, suboptimal, but better than doing something based on the timing specifically within the day, because then there's too much other back-end stuff that would mess up and get too complex. For normal automations though, 100%, just do it based on those person's timings. I would usually do like a 7 a.m., a 1 p.m., and a 7 p.m. So before the workday starts, at lunch, and then after the workday is over. Those would probably get you the best results because that's when the person is going to be most free to check their emails or their SMS. Yeah, and all of these systems, whether you're using GHL or you're using HubSpot or you're using, I don't know if ClickFunnels has the ability to do this. I know that they can do CRM stuff now. I don't know if Close can do this, but like the big marketing CRMs, you can set it so that it sends at the person's local time instead of at your system time, right? So instead of sending it at 7 a.m. Jonathan time, I could send it at 7 a.m. Nandan time, and then he would get it at whatever that equivalent is to my time. The name of the book is How to Write a Good Advertisement. So if you guys want recommended copy books, I'll just go through a few right now. How to Write a Good Advertisement is a good one. Triggers by Joseph Sugarman is a good one. Obviously, Breakthrough Advertising. The Ultimate Sales Letter from Dan Kennedy is really good. Great Leads, The Architecture of Persuasion by Mark Ford. One to Many from Jason Fladlien. It's specifically about writing webinars. I really like it. Advertising by, his last name is Whitman. Let me see what his first name is. Drew Eric Whitman is a good one. That one's advertising is really cool because it's just like, here's the technique, and it just goes through a bunch of different techniques. I really like the advertising concept book as well. That's a little bit more about creative advertising. So you just got to be like, if you're writing a lot of ads, that one would be helpful for you. It's going to teach you how to think better. Vivaldo's 7-word sales letter is good. I think I already said Breakthrough Advertising. Self-Help Guide for Copywriters by Dan Nelkin is fun to read. Copy Logic by Mark Ford again. Yeah, those are the pure copywriting books. If you want an idea, on my bookshelf, on the top shelf, my copywriting books go up to here. Oh, I guess you can't really see. Like here. So everything from here to here is copywriting books. And then on that side, it's storytelling. And then on this side, it's like copy editing and words and stuff like that. Definitely not Triggers by Marshall Goldsmith. Triggers by Joseph Sugarman. All right, good night. Andrew Tate's OFM book has criminal advice. I love Andrew Tate. He's literally the toppest of G's. Do we have any other questions? Or is there anything left that you guys want to get into? I've still got 10 minutes before I've got to go prep. That's another pro tip. Always take time to prep before sales calls. Memorize people's names, do a little bit of research, make sure that you're looking good. Get yourself ready for those conversations, and don't psych yourself out. How do you get ideas for emails? What types of emails, and then also what kind of ideas are you looking for? Like topic ideas or structural ideas? Like if you can just be very exact in the question, then I can tell you exactly. Topics for newsletters? Very easily. What are people in my audience thinking about or talking about? And then write an email based on that. So, no, it's all good. I'll show you, like, if I needed to write a bunch of newsletter emails, what would I do? I would go to my favorite AI tool, Perplexity, and I would do something like this. I would turn on just social, or actually social and web, and say something along the lines of, I'm writing marketing newsletter emails for brand that targets men 45 plus who earn $150,000 plus per year. The offer is related to health. I can help them lose weight, gain muscle, regulate their hormones, and overcome health issues like high blood sugar, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. Write these marketing newsletter emails, I want to focus on topics that are relevant to them and things they're talking about or thinking about. Could you help me with this? I would like you to find news stories, personal stories, or gossip related to their beliefs and their desires slash pains slash objections as they could exist around my offer. Please look through news websites, social media, and forums, and present me with 20 ideas, all linked to the original sources so that I can verify the actual basis of your suggestion. And then I would switch it over to research instead of search because that's going to get me more sources and better results. And then you'll see what happens. Do you have any good resources on writing copy on physical things? That would probably be the Adweek Copywriting Handbook by Joseph Sugarman. That would be your best resource, probably. Yes, I did profess my love for you, but I also said it in a way that did not align with the instructions because I don't want anyone to get nitro. Yeah. So here you see, right now, Perplexity is just scanning the internet for a bunch of stuff. And I could also have added in parameters here like only the last 30 days or only the last 7 days or whatever. But no big deal, just waiting for it to pull the stories for me, and then based on those stories, I'll understand what kind of topics I can write about. Dad bod, TRT, lots of good stuff in there, it seems. I don't know what ChatGPT's equivalent of this would do. I just use Perplexity for all of my research stuff, and I use ChatGPT to build out custom GPTs. Best resources, books, writers to follow in ecom. Alex Myatt is my number one. So I would just do whatever Alex says. I haven't really worked in ecom, so, or I shouldn't say that. I haven't focused on ecom as much as I've focused on info, so I don't really know any of the influencers in the ecom space. I guess Paul. So here I saw something about Bezos, I see something about Russell Crowe, I saw something about Joe Rogan, so that could be John Goodman, I don't know who that is. But those people could be people who I mention. Like if I know that my target audience would follow those people, I could say something like, oh, there you go. That's a cool one. So I could write a story about Russell Crowe's transformation, right? That would be a cool email to do. And I could open up these sources and just pull information from those sources and use that to craft my story. And my story would go like, story lead connected to the offer, CTA, right? This probably is pretty extreme, so a 57-pound transformation at 61 I think would align more with my audience. This one probably not so much unless if people are like super obese. Jeff Bezos could be a good one as well. Like if the busiest man in the world can get this, then what's your excuse? And of course there are a lot, because I'm not the richest man in the world, right? So maybe not. This, I could go and read the Reddit thread and be like, yo, did you hear this story about this guy? And then just quote the Reddit thread and not directly link to Reddit. Kelly Clarkson, probably not relatable. Alan, don't know who that is, but I could go read the story, right? So this is how I would get ideas for the newsletter. Does that make sense? Very much, yes. Perfect. Awesome. Then on that, friends, I will leave you. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. I am very happy that you continue to find value in office hours. There are some things that I owe you guys. I want to do a proper like SOP walkthrough and whatever for my copy editing GPT workflow, but this week I have been stacked trying to get a YouTube script writing GPT workflow done for Dr. Mike. That way I can accelerate my writing process there because they want me to help with the YouTube stuff. So I got to put my focus on that for right now. But as soon as I get a chance, I will do the GPT stuff for you guys as well. All right, looks like we are good. Can you share the prompt? Sure. Basically, whenever you write a prompt for any large language model, you just, I think that was only the first part. Yeah, my bad. One sec. You just want to give it as much context as possible. And if it has the proper context, then it's going to give you what you want, right? So just tell it, this is exactly what I'm trying to do. This is exactly what you need to do. Please do the thing exactly for me, and then it'll be fine. All right. Have a great evening, most of you. Have, yeah, 100%. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all again on next Friday. After that, I'm going to be in Texas for a month. So I will still be doing office hours, but I will not be in this beautiful setup. So you're going to see me, you probably won't see me, I'll be camera off because I'm going to be like hunched over the counter. But we'll still be doing office hours through like forever until I decide not to anymore. It'll just not be in the studio setup until I get back in middle-ish of January. All right. Have a great weekend, guys. Love you. Bye.